Right, welcome everybody to the first shiur of 2025 entitled Bible Codes. Nice to see you all here. Um, I I like the shiur very much because as on my journey through Judaism, I'm always looking for something to disprove the veracity, the truth of Judaism. And all I've found in the last 30 plus years of doing this is more and more evidence to the fact that Judaism is truth, is MS. I started out as a 17-year-old wanting a girlfriend, and my parents telling me you're not allowed one because the Torah doesn't allow it. So my first question was, well, not to them, but to myself, was, well, who says the Torah is right? And I've tried for the last 30 years, 31 years, to prove that the Torah is wrong. And all that I've discovered is how right the Torah is. So this is one of the small snippets, just 1 hour, but obviously it's a much deeper subject and you can go into it for years and years discussing and trying to work out the veracity of Torah. And this was one of the things I encountered on my journey to try and understand and see the truth behind the Torah. Anyway, a book was written a few years ago in the 90s by a man called Michael Drosnin. Drosnin, he called the book Bible Codes, and he bases it on work that was done, which I'll show you soon, on a 1994 paper by three rabbis, Eliyahu Rips, Doron Whitsom, and Yaakov Rosenberg, on ELS. ELS stands for equidistant or equidistant letter sequences in the book of Genesis. Now, Drosnin he took the world by storm with this book, and then he wrote a second book, and then he used the Bible codes themselves to try and work out when the end of the world is coming, and he finds the date in the convoluted usage of Bible codes, and he comes to a conclusion, and he calls the book Countdown, and he predicts the end of the world. But the takeaway from him is that after going through the Bible and seeing how holy and how unbelievable it is that all these codes are hidden in the Bible, he comes to the conclusion that not that Hashem wrote the Torah, but that it must have been written by extraterrestrial life. And they brought, it's the same extraterrestrial aliens who brought the human DNA genetic code to Earth. They also gave us the Bible. So once he did that, I think he lost a lot of respect within the scientific community and definitely in the Torah community. And it's fallen out of popularity, and no one really talks much about the Bible codes. Now, let me share with you some. I'm terrible at this sharing business, but let me try share with you. Allow, cancel. The paper that was written by, sorry, I'm just so terrible with this. The paper that was written by these three, I think they're rabbis, and they wrote it for a statistics paper, and in it they're trying to prove this concept statistically that within the Torah, and by the way, the Torah is a very, very small, a very, very thin book. So to say that not only are there stories in the Torah that, there it is, it's working. Equidistant letters, sequences in the book of Genesis. It's published by this STOR. And here you have it. I don't know which university they did it for. And here their names, Doron, Eliyahu, and Yoav. and using statistic random, what do they call it? Randomization analysis, which I don't understand. They take all the letters of the Torah, remove all the spaces. They make sure that it's written in its very exacting order. They don't obviously change the letters, the letters around. And here I'm going through 12 pages of these statistics. And the referee that gave them this project to do gave them a very difficult task. The task was to take 34 personalities from the Encyclopedia of Judaica, personalities that are very random, but Jewish personalities like the Raavad, the Ibn Ezra, the Vilna Gaon. Here are their names: the Maharal of Prague, Rabbi Yehuda Chassid, the Sma, the Bach, the Yom Tov Lipman Hiller, Rabbi Yoina, Rabbi Yosef Karo. Here are all their names. Here's their names in Hebrew, and here are their birth dates and death dates. And using just the book of Bereshit, just Genesis, they had to find all of their names, their birth dates and death dates in the same proximity. Wow. And they managed. They managed. And then to make it more difficult, they asked them to also find their books that they wrote. And the name of their books appeared in those same places in the Torah. Now, as I said, the Torah is a very thin book. When I teach this to high school kids, I show them it's only about half the thickness of the first Harry Potter book. And you telling me that everything is in that Torah, because the Mishnah tells us hafuch ba v'hafuch ba dekol ba, that everything is in the Torah. You just got to know how to turn it inside out and upside down, and you will be able to find everything in the Torah. So if everything is in the Torah, then you should be able to find the name of the Vilna Gaon, the book that he wrote, and his birth date and death date. And you'd be able to find that with 33 other rabbis as well. And here's all the mathematics about it, but it's all Greek to me. It's literally Greek. Here's the letter sigma. There's another one, mathematical equations, all over the show. Here's pi even. And they came up with unbelievable success, to the point where the referee who was adjudicating this thesis said, it is an interesting puzzle. The Torah is a challenging puzzle. That's great after all that. So you find all these things in the Torah in this tiny, thin little book. It doesn't work on anything else. They even used the actual letters of the Torah and scrambled them, and nothing came out of that. They used the Hebrew version of Moby Dick. Nothing came out of that. They used the English Bible. Nothing came out of that. You can never get this type of statistical. It's 1 in 13 trillion chances that it was made by chance that you'd get a book that would have all this, just a random guess of, I don't know, thumb suck, 34 rabbis, their birth dates and their death dates. Anyway, the whether this thesis is right or wrong, it is. I mean, here it is. Here's it for peer review, and it was passed as a proper statistical study. But for me, who doesn't really understand statistics and really doesn't get what the whole thing's about, I'm not impressed, because remember, I told you already that the Mishnah says that you must turn the Torah inside out and upside down, because everything is in the Torah. Now, the Vilna Gaon, who lived in the 1700s, he already makes a statement like this, and he says, the rule is that all that was, is, and will be until the end of time is included in the Torah from Bereshit till the end of the Torah, where it says La'enei Kol Yisrael, which is the last verse of Deuteronomy, and not merely in a general sense, but including the details of every species and of every person individually, the most minute details of everything that happened to him from the day of his birth until his death. Now, the Torah is tiny. There's only 80,000 words in the entire Torah. And you're telling me that in there are hidden, if you do the right counting and equidistant jumping of letters, and you don't change that, you're going to find all these secrets. The early Rishonim classical commentators like the Ramban, Nachmanides, had a student who went off the derech. He became an apostate, an early Christian, and he took some pork on Yom Kippur, and he took a bra, and he cooked the pork on Yom Kippur, lit the fire, cooked it, and ate it in front of the Ramban. And he said, right, Rabbi, how many sins have I committed on this holy day? And then the Ramban and him argued. They were, he was a genius student, and the two of them had an argument exactly how deep a hole in hell he would burn in. And then in the end, the Ramban said to him, what happened to you? How did this happen? And he said to him, because you told me that everything is in the Torah, and I looked for my name and I never found my name. So obviously you're talking nonsense, and the Torah's nonsense, and I'm not scared about eating pork on Yom Kippur. So the Ramban said to him, but your name is in the Torah. And he found him a verse in Deuteronomy 32, chapter 32, verse 26, where Hashem is warning the Jewish people in the poem of Ha'azinu, and it says, Amarti af ehem ashbisa me'enosh zichram, and this student's name was Avner, and if you take every third letter of that verse, Avner af ehem, aleph, ashbisa, the third letter is a bet, the third letter of me'enosh is a nun, and the third letter of zichram is a reish. And he said, there you are in the terrible curse, warning the Jewish people not to spurn God. In that very verse is your name, and you have spurned God, living up to what was recorded about you in the Torah 3,335 years ago. So he then did teshuvah, this student, obviously, and he's my great-great-grandfather. No, I'm joking. He's not, but that would have been a great ending to the story. But nevertheless, already in the 1200s, you had a personality like the Nachmanides, like the Ramban, who said you can look through the Torah. And obviously today, with our feeble minds, it's very difficult to find these secret codes. But with a computer program, and now with Google playing around with quantum computing, it should take a few seconds. In fact, this Bible code program you can buy yourself for a mere $135. I saw it for sale, and you can play with it on your own computer. I never bought it because it's like about 20,000 Rand once you convert the $135 to Rands. So I never bothered to buy it, but it would be a lot of fun, in inverted commas, to try and play with it and see it. And in fact, I quickly looked. It's not part of my shiur, so I never prepared slides for it. But did October the 7th come up when they ran the October the 7th and the various words? And yes, you can't believe the amount of stuff that was all found in the same proximity, in the same number of verses, in the same area of the Torah. The word October is an English word or Latin word, I imagine, the root. And there it was, running down after skipping the same equidistant letters in the Torah. They found the word October, and crossing it, they found the word Nova as well, also counting a different set of equidistant letters, Nova, Arabs, Hamas, and it was all found in that same place. In the book that is told already in the 17th century that everything in its greatest detail is written in this tiny little book of 80,000 words. That's nothing, 80,000 words. That's a tiny, tiny book. And there it is, October the 7th, 2023 is mentioned over there. Now, why doesn't the Torah work if you turn the letters up, if you scramble the letters? Why didn't this work? You've still got all the same letters. And definitely, well, I don't need to explain to you why it doesn't work on Harry Potter and Moby Dick and the Torah in English. That's obvious that it wouldn't work there. But the Torah in Hebrew has to be written punctiliously in order. And if you change one letter, the whole Torah becomes pasul, becomes invalidated. Because you all know that Hashem has many names. Everyone knows the 4-letter name of Hashem. Some people know the 42-letter name of Hashem that we say in Ana B'Koach, the first letters of that poem that we say on and sing on a Friday night. There's the 72 triplet letter of Hashem's name, which you can find in the portion of the splitting of the sea, you take the first verse there, it's the first letter, and then you take the last letter of the second verse, and then the third verse. Each verse, they one after another, is 72 letters long, and you take first verse, last verse, first letter, last letter, first letter, second letter, second last letter, second letter, third letter, third last, third letter. And you make couplets. I don't know if it's called a couplet or a triplet of the names of Hashem, 72 triplets. And that's the 72 letter name of Hashem. But there's an even bigger name of Hashem, and that's the 304,805 letter name of Hashem. And we read it every single week, every Monday, Thursday, every Shabbos Mincha, but we go through that name of Hashem. And by the way, if the rabbi or the chazan or whatever is reading that name of Hashem and he makes a mistake, oy vavoy, the whole shul, if they're following, will scream, will shrei gewalt, and they will say, derech, not dorech, kasef, not kesef. What's wrong with you? Why are they making such a fuss? Because that is the 304,805 letter name of Hashem. And that's the Torah. And Hashem is all of reality. In fact, the first name that I mentioned of Hashem, the Yud Hey Vav Hey, if you scramble those letters, it spells Havaya. Havaya means reality. The only true reality in the universe is God. In fact, the universe is in God. The reality is the perception of God's reality that we are party to. So obviously, if it's in God's perception and in God's reality, it will all be there. So if you know how to use a computer, and if you were an ancient rabbi and you had a brain like a computer, like the Ramban, Nachmanides, you would be able to find anything you needed to find in the Torah. October the 7th, the name of his apostate student, etc., etc. Now, there was another rabbi called the Rambam, Maimonides. Now, the Rambam also had a student that challenged him and said, you're so clever, Rabbi. Where's your name in the Torah? Where's your name? So look what he found. This is a famous one that he did. Here it is, sharing it with you. Yeah, can you see it? Is it big enough? Is it small enough? Whoopsie. I'm so terrible at this. It's unbelievable. You are screen sharing. Thank you. So in this one, I hope it's clear. Don't know why it's gone all tiny here. No, let's do it again. No. Move to bottom. No, that didn't help. Share. Sorry, you got to see it inside the text. That's why I'm pushing on it here. Let's try again. Let me get rid of this one. Here it is. Okay, so this is in Exodus 11:9 till 12:13. It's only a little piece of Torah. And in this piece over here, it talks about, it's in Parshat Bo, where the Jewish people are about to leave Egypt. And it says, Lo yishma aleichem Paro. Paro will not listen to you, says Hashem to Moses, Leman rabot mofsai be'eretz Mitzrayim, so that I can increase my wonders in the land of Egypt. And there it is. If you take the letters rabot moftai be'eretz Mitzrayim, the first letters of those words spells Rambam. And the Rambam lived in Eretz Mitzrayim. Most of his life, he lived in Egypt. Okay, that's amazing. Skip down a bit, and here is the birth date of the Rambam. And it's not even in a code. You don't even have to skip any letters. It says, Arba'a Asar Yom Lachodesh Hazeh, which happens to be the night before Pesach, the day before Pesach. On the 14th day of this month, the Rambam was born on the 14th of Nisan. So it makes sense that his birth date and his name would be in the same proximity. But what about the book that he wrote? He wrote a book called Mishnah Torah. So if you skip 50 letters from the beginning of the portion, the first letter is Mem, then the next one, 50 letters later, is a Shin, 50 letters later is a Nun, 50 letters later is a Hey. Skip 613 letters, because his book deals with the 630 mitzvot, and then do the 50 again, 50, 50, 50, 50, you get spelt out Mishnah Torah. So in the very same proximity, you've got your Rambam, his birth date, and the name of his Torah with a skip of 613 inside the thing. And the Rambam, who also had a brain like a computer brain, he showed that his name, his book, and his birth date was there in the Torah. And if that doesn't blow your mind, then they ran experiments on trying out all different worldly events to see if there's any codes or what the Bible codes actually found. Here's one. This one is 9/11. Is 9/11 in the Torah? Most of you remember 9/11, if not all of you, obviously. I mean, when I teach this to teenagers, they've heard of 9/11, but they weren't around. But even here, the word matos is found. Here, the Torah without any spaces. This is really how that 304,000 letter name of God looks, without any spaces. But if you run the computer test to it and you skip the right amount of letters wherever it is, you get here Migdal Hataomim, which is the Twin Towers. You get your Parmayim, the airplanes came twice. You get the word matos. Now that's a made up Hebrew word, matos, as airplane. You get to die there, etc. There's another slide. It was done a few times. This one. Sorry. It was done a few times. I don't know how to shut my phone. Sorry. It was done a few times with various, even just with 9/11. Here's another one, also with just 9/11 itself. And when they ran the tests on it, screen share. So there's a lot of things to run around here. You can get all of this on the internet if I'm like leaving out things for you. Yeah, is it the right one? God, hold on, I can't see it now. Here also, it's also got Te'oma, which is a twin. It's also got the date, Chaf Gimel Elul. And that's when it happened. It was the 11th of September, the 23rd of Elul that year. Yishmael murdered, Ret Tevach, slaughtered. And then the news article at that time, they didn't know the number of deaths. And the news article said it was around 3,000 people. And here you don't even need Bible codes. In the actual text, if you carry on the reading, it says Yakishloshet Alfei Ish, which is 3 words in the Torah, like 3,000 people. So there's that number as well, found in the same proximity that you would find information about the Twin Towers, which is, for me, absolutely fascinating. All right, so you'll say that was lucky. So we found October the 7th, you found the Twin Towers, but what about other events? Well, here's one that I'm sure you all remember, and that's a tsunami that happened in Southeast Asia when they did the Bible codes and they ran the data through that program of the tsunami. Again, it says here, Ba'asia in Asia, Revavot, tens of thousands drowned, Nesfu. And then the date of the tsunami is here as well. Also, if you count to minus 257 letters, which means going backwards, the 14th of Tevet, which was December the 26th of that year. And then what's unbelievable is the word tsunami, which isn't even an English word and definitely not a Hebrew word, but here it is in the brown, running backwards, minus 80 letters, counting backwards, tsunami. Equidistant letter spacing to find all these words in the same proximity around the same space in the Torah. They obviously did tests to see and experiments to see if you could find the Holocaust. What does the Torah say about the Holocaust? How much information does it give over there? Here's a quick one. Obviously, there's a lot more on it, but here's a quick one. And again, share Holocaust. They also came up with Harasha'ah, okay, the wicked. They found that we'll gather them in Auschwitz. Here's Auschwitz, Beis Aleph Vov Shin. And Auschwitz is a German word. It's not a Hebrew word. But if you skip 300 letters going forward, you will come to Auschwitz. And then crossing Auschwitz, in every second letter over here through Auschwitz, is the word Eichmann, who was probably the most notorious and most evil Nazi of World War II. So there's his name in the Torah. There's his place of work, unfortunately, where he did terrible, terrible things. There it is, all found in the Bible, and even simple things they did tests on, like diabetes. Where does the Torah talk about diabetes? And yeah, indeed, it does. If you run the right words through the computer program, here it is, diabetes. The word for pancreas is lav in Hebrew. That's actually a Hebrew word. Um, that's it there, but obviously there's a space, lave and live, whatever. And but there it is if you put those letters together. And then the word sakeret in the same proximity. Remember, that's the weird thing, that it would all be in the same proximity. Sakeret means diabetes in Hebrew, and then the cure or the treatment, if you count backwards, 3,378 letters every time, it spells the word insulin. Insulin. There it is in the Torah, the cure or the medication, the pancreas and diabetes, all found in the same thing. So you can understand why a guy like Drossman got excited and tried to predict the end of the world in his book called Countdown. And what he wanted to show was that he can predict it. The problem with this, though, is that you can't use it as a predictive text because you don't know what information to put in. So if I write end of the world or Gog and Magog, okay, so I've got that, but now what date do I put in? What information do I feed the program to tell me the date? I could come up with hundreds of dates maybe that would cross and be in the same proximity. That doesn't mean that that is when Gog or Magog will happen, and definitely not aliens, because that won't help anybody. I'll just show you one more before we end off. The Gulf War. I'm sure you all remember that one also. The Gulf War, interesting stuff that was found. And I must tell you, to find just those rabbis' names and their birth dates, death dates, and books that they wrote in the same proximity was 1 in 13 trillion. And that was just one experiment. I've just shown you in 10 minutes diabetes, Holocaust, 9/11, tsunami, and here's the Gulf War. Here, Skadim. Scuds is, if you count back, 57 letters in the same proximity over here. Till is a missile, if you go minus one letter. Russian, Saddam Hussein. There he is also. In 14 letter counts and 74 letter counts. And when the war started, every 8 letter counts was on the 3rd of Shvat of that year. I don't know, what was it, 1998 or whenever it was. But there, the 3rd of Shvat is mentioned. So you've got your date, you've got your antagonists. And the portion here, which is also fascinating, is it talks about the war between the 4 kings and the 5 kings. And the one that pops up here is Amraphel Melech Shinar. There you can actually see it in the text. It's talking about when Abraham goes to fight the war to rescue Lot, his nephew. It talks about Amraphel, the king of Shinar. Where's Shinar? Today, Shinar is Iraq, became Babylon, and now today it is Iraq. So in the portion that talks about the king of Babylon, Iraq, there is a hint, counting the right letters, to Saddam Hussein, to Scud missiles, words that were only made up later, and the date when the Gulf War would start. So it's really powerful stuff. Don't try use it, even if you decide to buy it for $135. Don't try use it to predict, but you're in it. Your name is there, your birth date is there, the book you're going to write is there somewhere, your date of death is there as well, but you're never going to find it because you don't know what information to feed it. So to use it as a tool of predictive text, that's not really going to work so well. And I think that's where the failing of Drosnin was, and that's why it didn't really work so well, and he lost favor with all the scientific community and obviously the Jewish community, and then he blamed it on aliens. So that's never going to work. But for us, and for someone who's searching, and someone who's looking to disprove or to prove the truth and the veracity of Torah, as I said in the beginning, this is a wonderful shiur. This is a wonderful program. And there's so much more in it. I just gave you snippets, but there are people who are still very much involved trying to look for everything that they can. And as I said, you can even do it at home if you purchase that program and try and find great info about things that have happened. Just you have to put in the right information. So for me, this was great on my journey to discover from the age of 17 and not have a girlfriend. This was this was great for me to try and find stuff in the Torah that led me on my path to becoming a rabbi, starting off as a kiruv rabbi, an outreach rabbi, and then a high school teacher. And even now, I've been teaching this at the Cape Town Torah High and at Herzliya as well. The kids are not interested in the beginning, but then as the class carries on, they're interested because it's great stuff and very hard to disprove and say, well, you can do it with anything. You actually can't. These patterns are one in hundreds of trillions of chances that it could happen, but it only works with the Torah written as it is, without any mistakes in the letters. And as we said, that is the ultimate name of Hashem as well. So if you have any questions or comments, I'd be interested to hear. Otherwise, thanks so much for joining. And I will post it so you can share it to all your friends and family.
Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you.
Hey, good to see you.